family of five, a mother, a father, and three children. A couple with 1 year of relationship. A family of six, a mother, a father, three boys and a girl. All with one thing in common. All women are survivors of domestic violence. If you are a victim who does not know how to proceed on reporting domestic violence or who is scared, if you are someone who knows a victim and you do not understand why the victim is holding back, or if you are seeing a loved one suffering and cannot understand them or do not know how to support them, please listen and watch. Domestic violence is the behavior, physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological abuse or threats in order to gain power and control over an intimate partner, as explained by the United Nations. Victims don't have a type like prostate cancer, which only affect men, or ovarian cancer that only affect women, or bronchiolitis, which is common in young children and infants. You might be asking, why am I comparing this to deadly diseases? Because domestic violence is a deadly disease. It has symptoms, it is not a normal function to the body, and it can result in death. It is something we should all worry about. Through the years, we have developed theories, studied cases, and made many efforts to find what causes this, or if it has a cure. Some would blame it on education, some on culture or tradition, others on ethnicity, and others, well, on men. But domestic violence has no socio-economical status, no race, no ethnicity, no gender, and no age. It can happen to anyone. As part of the Hispanic community, I see how much domestic violence occurs in it. Some mention the vulnerability of the woman in the Hispanic culture as the one to blame. Others, the dominance of the male. Others are self-worth. All tied back to the culture. There are three possible reasons I explored that explain why Latino or Hispanic females are the larger minority who suffer from domestic violence. I decided to focus in the Los Angeles area, where domestic violence is very present. The first reason is that undocumented immigrants are scared of reporting because they fear deportation. Latina women do not want to report their abuser because of the fear of deportation is a significant problem in the Los Angeles County. In a study, Immigration Enforcement Awareness and Community Engagement with the Police, Evidence from Domestic Violence Calls in Los Angeles by Ashley Ann Mushal and Carolina Amuedo Dorantes, the correlation of Latinos and unreported crimes is explained. As well known, Los Angeles is home to more than 1 million immigrants, 49% of which are Latino. In a survey conducted by the Los Angeles Police Department, it was noted with the drops in domestic violence and sex crime reporting that 44% of Latinos would choose to not report because of their fear to deportation. We can comprehend why Hispanic or Latina women would prefer to not report their aggressors. They rather go through being abused than being sent back to their home country. It's similar to other situations where immigrants prefer the circumstances which they're under than something that might cost them their stay in the United States. Now, in the Los Angeles County, intimate partner homicides are associated with greater media reporting. However, a study conducted by Daniel C. Slackoff on the differential representation of Latina and Black female victims in front-page news stories, a qualitative document analysis, she states how media outlets tend to focus on the victimization of white women and girls, and stories covered by media of Latina or Black women mention their unsafe environment. Slackoff also mentions that Hispanic women are often shown as being somehow responsible for their victimization. By the media having this negative perspective on Hispanic women, aggressors can view it as an opportunity to victimize Hispanic or Latina women with greater ease. Even though Latina women accompanied with Black women are more vulnerable to homicide, a result of domestic abuse, white victims get priority and positive attention from groups who can provide the most help, like police and the media, to obtain justice. Again, we can see why victims would prefer to stay quiet. The second reason for this group to suffer domestic violence is that Hispanic females don't want to destroy their families, and men believe it is part of their role to be dominant. Here, on this picture, we can see the basic structure of a Hispanic and Latino family. The leader of the family is at the end of the table with a view to everyone, the daughters next to him and the sons after, and the mother serving them all. To summarize the Hispanic culture, men are the dominant sex. They have a job, give the commands, and bring stability to the house. The rest of the family listens to the man, including the women, who are supposed to stay at home educating the children and being housewives. If any, with the exception of the man, fell out of the customs, everyone, even other women, would judge negatively. In an analysis by Nicole Peraz that talks about the association between domestic violence and homicides in LA County, she shows that women who seem like a threat to their partner, whether by education level or socioeconomic status, are more likely to be killed by them. Men are taught that they are supposed to lead and, in a sense, be greater than their female partner. Men experiencing to be inferior creates instability because these circumstances are unexpected and in many eyes shouldn't happen. In the experience of Latina victims of domestic violence in Seeking Support Services by Janine Shuya, she investigates factors that contribute to Latina victims' decisions of whether to report their abuser or not through a study. One of the victims she interviewed said the following: Latin men have the last word, so if the man gets mad at you and treats you bad, it is because it is the woman's fault. You know, what is the point? Incredible to hear, right? Women are so accustomed to be under the man's commands. First the father, then a brother, then the husband. On her investigation, Shuya found that a great factor of women's decisions to not report was on how shame can affect a family's reputation. For example, a victim said the following: in addition, I was concerned about protecting the name of my family. For instance, I did not want to make any move that could be viewed as shameful for my family. I don't know if that makes sense. You can tell how this victim already saw the critiques fall on her for putting her partner in that position, and therefore damage the family's image. This then can lead to separation, either because the man can't stand it, causing domestic violence, or the man to leave instead of supporting. The family's expectation is for the woman to fix the problem, but instead, most women who are still alive leave the man's side in order to be able to grow. The third and final reason for this community to suffer of domestic violence is that Hispanic and Latino traditions make their daughters more vulnerable to unwanted circumstances. Like mentioned before, men in my community are taught to be the tough ones. Fathers take their male children from young to go to work with them. They instill in them that they must be tough, strong, the ones to make tough decisions to protect their family, etc. And their female children, their princesses, are spoiled and protected at all costs, which makes them unexperienced and unaware of real life. These girls, including myself, are unaware of people's bad intentions because we've lived under a special code of protection all our lives. We can therefore see where the weakness of women in the Hispanic culture come into being. We are vulnerable to anything. Another practice seen on Hispanic and Latin culture is the idea of lavar la ropa sucia en casa, which literally translates to wash dirty clothes at home. This means that any problem or situation you must fix at home without involving outside people. A victim confessed the following to Chuya: "This is confidential, okay? In my culture, we did not discuss things like that with strangers. You can imagine why I did not want to do anything." Another stated, "Yeah, it was terrible because sometimes I would spend almost a week inside the house without going out. What made it even more difficult for me, believe it or not, it's because my siblings wanted me to keep my lip tied. You get it?" These declarations demonstrate how women are expected to follow certain rules and be this perfect mother, daughter, sister, and wife, which must do what is necessary to protect their family, even if it means staying quiet. Therefore, we can conclude that family and cultural values are major factors that influence domestic violence victims to seek help. Now, let's look back at the family of 6 we saw at the beginning. This is my family. Now a family of 5, excluding my father. I was 6 when I saw my mom crying and understood what was going on because I had seen the cause. I'll always remember the moment and those before. It had been pouring past days, and the president and my dad, coming from a long day of drinking, stopped at the house. He mentioned he was heading out again, and my mom hid the keys because in his condition, it was dangerous. So I grabbed 2 of my brothers and hid under the bed and instinctively covered their eyes because I somehow knew what was going to happen. Soon my dad came looking for them and knew my mom hid them. He asked for them and my mom stayed quiet. He asked 2 more times, every time with a higher tone, and in the 4th with no response. My dad hit my mom on the head with his right hand. I couldn't see that again, ever, and it seemed like my mom was no longer willing to go through it either. After 5 years of domestic violence, my mom decided that to stop this mistreatment, we needed to get away. Now, we have more than 10 years living in the United States, happy and healthy, and striving every day for a better future, knowing we have each other. The relationship with my dad is complicated because of what he made my mom go through. I would not talk to my mom the way I talk to my dad. I'm on the defensive all the time. I don't allow him to disrespect me or yell at me the way my mom would. I will raise my voice to my dad in a way I would not even think about on doing to my mom. I guess there's no respect as a father, only love, which is different, and definitely no admiration towards him. His actions caused us to live away from him, moving into a different country, growing up without a father figure, and having a mother get by alone after being a domestic violence victim. Every day, I am grateful that my mom made that decision, not for us, but for her. By being a witness of domestic violence and experiencing and seeing the effects it leaves behind on its victims, has left me with numerous lessons and has strived me to work harder every day. The prevalence of domestic violence in California should not be an excuse to not try and improve the situation. Citizens and authorities should be more aware of the fear that's integrated in the Hispanic community and should encourage and act to make them feel as safe to report as other victims. The sources presented help us understand people's perspectives, specifically female victims of domestic violence. It gives us a different perspective on those who are affected by domestic violence and helps us evoke empathy. Therefore, we can determine ways to help and approach victims of domestic violence. Domestic violence is not a women's issue. We've seen songs, movies, documentaries, commercials, foundations, organizations, all types of media and sources that try to raise awareness about the subject. So, why haven't we learned?